Hello Internet, Demogen here, and today we are still in the snowy but rather red and on its way to the apocalypse fields of Garlemald, where we are getting outside help. We still haven't seen Sid this expansion.
No major injuries then. Good.
More voice acting.
I briefed the recovered soldiers and sent them on their way as quickly as I could, but nevertheless feared they would not make it in time.
The additional support was invaluable. Your men saved more than a few lives. Though not all, I regret to say.
I take it that I'm addressing Lucia Junius. I'm the Forum's envoy, Fortuneau Leveilleur. And you are owed an explanation for these most dire developments.
Don't they already know? Haven't we already? Well, I don't know.
Another trial wrought by the final days. I was beginning to suspect as much. You doubtless feel some consternation having been forced to abandon your original plan. But trust me when I say you were right to send the refugees elsewhere. Beasts have been sighted within the capital. Perhaps it was a stroke of grim fortune that the population was decimated beforehand, as they've yet to appear in any great number, but in time. In any case, Maxima leads the remainder of the contingent in an effort to cull the creatures and evacuate the populace as we speak. Once the airships have taken to the skies, I pray your men can be persuaded to join him.
You'll permit us to retain our weapons?
You fought on our side, mate.
I wouldn't have sent you after the Scions were I expecting you to stab them in the back.
And I, for one, would not consider past transgressions more relevant than future contributions. Regardless of the circumstances that saw us at odds before, we need men of courage.
He was never actually
than ever.
horrendous to us. In fact, he treated us as fairly as possible, considering. He looks dumbfounded.
We swore to defend Garlemald, and so we shall.
Defend its people
It
wherever
seems
they
you have
may
everything
be.
under control. You will excuse me then, for mine own duties await.
Yeah, off you pop.
A moment, Master Fortuneau. You did desire to express your appreciation for services rendered, did you not?
Ha.
Did. Though if you intend to again ask that Charlian alter its course, you will find my gratitude insufficient.
No,
Tis
nothing of the
nothing so
sort.
onerous. I wish to hear the details of this grand endeavor of yours.
Do you swear to listen and to learn, and not to embark upon some
Why do we want to
scheme with us?
impede you? You were an amazing backup
I
plan.
swear.
Should we fail, we're going to need him.
Any other I would doubt, but you I trust to keep your word. For not once have you broken it.
Almost
Very
under his
well.
breath then.
I will request that the Forum make you privy to our plans. You may await our summons at the Baldessian Annex, assuming the decision is in your favor. Does that suffice?
It does. You have my thanks.
His gloves are so dumb. I'm sorry. I love Alphino's costume, except the gloves.
You
can regale us with tales of your most recent sojourn to the first.
Ooh, that's a story. I'm still giddy over that entire section, if you hadn't noticed. Just so good. Oh.
Did you hear something just now?
Oh? What the? Why is there a loperit on Atheris? Hi, Pudding Way. Why are you guys here? And why is Pudding Way zombified?
Dawn may banish.
Oh, hi, Andre.
Darkest night.
What have you done?
And to this bitter clime bring warmth and comfort. "'Tis heartening to see such an assembly upon my return. I thought often of you whilst I looked down upon our star's brilliance from the moon above."
Yeah, good to see you too. Why are you here?
Yes, but what are you doing here? And dressed like that? Aren't you cold?
Verily, I fear for my health should I proceed to expound upon our purpose ere I procure more suitable garments.
Shivering animation.
Then allow me to summarize. We're here because none of you lot are up there. Nor has anyone deigned to send word about any changes in the plans. It's rude, is what it is. At least that's what I thought at first, but then folks got to wondering if you weren't in a spot of bother, so we decided to take matters into our own hands. Come down here and help, if our help be needed.
I don't know who they've got to do the voice acting for Living Way, but they are nailing it.
So she says, but it's also something of a convenient excuse to visit Atheris. Oriange made it sound absolutely marvellous. More so before the impending doom, but still.
Doom.
And it's not like there will ever be a better time. What with the aforementioned doom?
Doom.
Marvellous, they say, yet not an ounce of pudding to be found. I must suffer Oriange's inferior works no more.
Ooh, ow. That burn.
Hey, maybe consider the plight of present company before you go blathering on about pudding and doom. Ahem. As I was saying, should you require any assistance with whatever, we are at your
Whatever.
disposal. We were born from Heidelin's love for the lives of this star, so naturally we would much prefer to see them continue. Twiddling our thumbs up on the moon is hardly conducive to that, though, is it?
Quite right, Living Way.
Aye, not when you've all got such precious thoughts and feelings and hopes for the future deserving of more active preservation. Speaking to Oriange made us realise that while we've carried
Well
out our
done,
duties to their
Oriange.
letter, we've failed to fulfil them in spirit. From there, it was just a hop, skip, and a jump towards resolving to do better. So please, show us how. Help us help you.
With pleasure, Living Way.
Forgive me, but are they...
Thy distant collaborators, indeed.
Hail, fellow, well met. You'd be a member of the Forum, would you? It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you at last. I'm Living Way, Heidelin's right paw. That last bit is very important. As am I, if I may humbly say so myself.
I bid you welcome to our star, Living Way. On behalf of the Forum, I thank you for traveling such a distance to meet us. As you have surmised, preparations for the Exodus have not proceeded as smoothly as we had hoped. I should be happy to personally escort you to our headquarters in Charlian, where you may advise us as you deem fit.
'Twas with reluctance that I set aside the great work of readying the moon for habitation. Be assured that I did so only after the Loporrits made plain their earnest desire to come hither, and I myself felt a growing certainty that their contributions here would prove invaluable.
Cool.
'Tis trite, perhaps, but I followed my heart.
Well, shit. Well done, Urianger, rather than your head for a change. Good to have with you back.
For a time, at least. Nevertheless, 'twas worth the journey to find present company well.
And you could probably add something to our adventures in the past.
Will thou attend us at the forum and lend thine own wisdom?
I am full of wisdom.
If that's all quite settled, can we start moving before Urianger catches his death? Even I'm freezing out here.
You were cold
I
anyway.
dare say you'll warm up quickly once you report the airship. Sat shoulder to shoulder with our fur-covered friends.
A swarm of Loporrits still approaches, like piranha. Apart from putting away still. Oh, that was literally just the start of the quest. I dare say Master Falconer was as nonplussed as we to learn the identity of Heidelin's lunar custodians. As he will soon discover, they have much and more to offer the Forum. Might I suggest we return to the Annex forthwith? We may yet have time to discuss thy recent adventures ere we are summoned to the rostra. Oh, is this finally the sightseeing log? Beg pardon, good man. I could scarce help but notice that sightseeing log on your person. You wouldn't happen to be the adventurer my niece wrote about, would you? Ah, so it is you. Pleased to make your acquaintance. I'm Bamath Ironheart, Milith aunt and seasoned explorer. Here, dear, and hand me that log of yours. Milith told me all about how she helped you embark on explorations of your own, so it's only right that I share with you some wisdom of my own. Let me see here. Oh, I can't forget to mention that. And done. That should be all set, dear. I've jotted down everything I heard about the most remarkable vistas the realm has to offer. Of course, a few notes I've shared are naught more than rumours, some describing locales so fantastic I can hardly believe they exist. But as I always say, the true joy of exploration lies not in the destination, but in the journey. So, go forth, dear, and see what sort of journey these hints take you on. That sightseeing log of yours won't fill itself, you know. Sightseeing log expanded. Right, so why? Had I just not noticed that on the map before? Was it so far off to the bottom that I'd not scrolled that far down and we could have picked it up earlier? I hope that's not the case. I'm not going to look at it yet. I'm going to look at it after I've finished the MSQ. Because, you know, there might be spoilers in it. And I don't want to be spoiled. I'm really struggling, by the way, to avoid spoilers. So far, so good. Still can't pick up the what's it log. I assume that's because we need to find out what the final zone is. I don't know why I'm running. It's not like I haven't got the ether current. Ether current? Ethernet. Yes, I assume the final set of marks will unlock once we've got access to the final zone in the game, like the Tempest equivalent. Because we do have No. There's no point looking at the fates, is there? Because I haven't done some yet. Yeah, so we've got one more zone to find. We've got Elpis. I never did go back and do those quests, did I? I assume we'll be going to Labyrinthos in a bit. Because there's still a fight. Mind you, that could be... Dear Lord, that's an outfit. Try and form a coherent thought, Dema. I assume we'll be going to the bottom tier of Labyrinthos as for when we get on the Ark, or we get people on the Ark. So will we be going to another zone next? Are we going to go to Corvus? Because they keep bringing it up. I think it'll be something more fantastical than that. Not that I'm complaining, Urianger, but I wasn't expecting to see you quite so soon. Nor I thee. In extolling the virtues of Etheris, I did inadvertently awaken in the Loperites a desire to avert our beloved star's demise. Father tells us you've obtained new knowledge that may aid us in our ongoing efforts. I have news to share regarding our study of the Ethereal Sea, but your findings are certain to be of greater interest. I mean, if the Ethereal Sea is a zone, that would be awesome. To what revelations did Hydaelyn's Elpis flower lead? Well, that's quite the tale. 2 days later. Who's going to be first? Then this dynamis is what drives the final days. If it and Akashar are one and the same, this all but proves Nadana's theory. Were an entity through sheer force of emotion to channel this vast dormant reservoir into a raging river, its power might surpass even that of ether. But if our star is so replete with ether, said entity would need to be outside its influence to effectively manipulate the dynamis of the great expanse. Meteion. Or rather the sorrow and suffering of fallen civilizations that she has been hoarding for millennia. Untold anguish and fear and hatred drawn from every corner of the universe, all for a single purpose, the destruction of Etheris. Then our foe is no longer some unknowable calamity. We have but one aim, to defeat Meteion. You make it sound so simple, but you're not wrong. Vanquish Meteion and we deliver the world from the final days, but to even attempt it there are 2 conditions. First, we must determine her location. Before Meteion escaped, an enchantment was placed upon her by Vanar, the woman who would become Hydaelyn. The implications of temporal magics are not entirely understood, and so we cannot assume that our Hydaelyn and the Vanar you met in Elpis are one and the same. Nevertheless, due to her intrinsic qualities as an all-powerful being, I'd wager that Hydaelyn possesses the knowledge we seek. Whether she would share that knowledge with us, however, remains to be seen. After all, she intends for us to flee Etheris, not to stay. Do you suppose she has abandoned her pursuit of Meteion? The Vanar I know would never give up. But what if she has? That's my impression too. Otherwise she wouldn't have used me as a conduit for her will or provide a clue such as the Elpis flower. I believe she has been waiting for mankind's answer to Hermes' question. So, what's the second condition? We must find a means to reach Meteion. Naturally, our chosen method will depend entirely upon wheresoever she has made her nest. Then communing with Hydaelyn must by necessity come first. Did you and Master Matoya have any luck with your investigation into the Ethereal Sea? Sadly not. Though we enlisted the help of Arenvald and other echo-based allies, we couldn't detect so much of a whisper from Hydaelyn, even from within the antitower. Master Matoya is of the opinion that in the years since abandoning it, the Forum has found some other method of receiving instructions from Hydaelyn. If so, it would most likely be some form of apparatus for observing the Ethereal Sea built closer to home. Is that a knock? It was a knock. Sorry to interrupt. We've just received word from the Forum. Your presence is required in the roster where they intend to discuss the Great Exodus. Then Father was able to persuade them. They're finally taking us seriously. Let's hear what they have to say. Yes. Yes, let's. But first, 'twas Hydaelyn's commandment that in the event Zodiac should perish, the Loporrits were to deliver the people of Etheirys from harm. Though that be the limit of their duties, they possess knowledge unparalleled of the great expanse and the means of its traversal. Should they be persuaded to assist in our efforts to reach Meteion, we would do well to heed their counsel. At first I wasn't sure what to make of Hermes and his motives, but it's like we discussed the great work. When faced with the harsh realities of life, some seek the release of death, others grow defiant. They fight. Either way, it is our right to choose. Well, that was a much quicker response than I was expecting. Nice to know our efforts on the Magna Glacius didn't go unnoticed. Father has granted us the opportunity we've been waiting for. Though we know not what information, if any, they intend to reveal, there's only one way to find out. I hope you don't mind me staying behind while you attend your big meeting. The roster reminds me a bit too much of the supremely scary tribunal in Ishgard. Now forgive me if I keep my distance. You didn't do anything, Tataru. You got us to fight for you. After you left for Garlemald, I went to Labyrinthos and tried to reach Hydaelyn using the Elpis flowers. Alas, my attempts were in vain. I can only assume that she spent a vast amount of her power in the confrontation with Fandaniel and is presently unable to communicate. Indeed, as her presence left my body, I could feel how faint it had grown. I think there's more to it than that yet. Master Matoius suspected for some time that the Forum has been constructing a new facility for the purpose of surveying the Ethereal Sea. Of course, as the custodian of the Antitower, which would presumably be rendered obsolete as a result, she has a few things to say about that. Nothing that should be repeated in polite company, you understand. It's a shame. I don't think we're going to see Matoya. Obviously, the voice actress who played her passed away, and they have a thing in game about taking characters out of rotation. Should that have happened, they did it with Yagiri as well. Maybe I'm wrong, because I would like to see her. You know, I love the snark between her and Stola, but a lot of that is because of the actress, and obviously with her with us no longer, it might not feel right. After sending Graho and Estinian back to Garlemald, I stayed in Locus Administ. I'd have just skipped that entirely. I stayed in Locus Administ for a time. Being an Imperial province, it was already in turmoil before the onset of the final days. You wouldn't believe the difficulty we had overseeing the evacuation of the villages we visited. I have faith the detachment we left behind will continue our work and shepherd the people to safety. To what safety can be found in a world coming to an end. To think the Crystal Tower the First is capable of such feats as sending one soul into the distant past. The events you witnessed and helped shape may yet hold the key to forestalling the final days. I'm reminded of dear friends in a future I unmade. Yeah, we don't talk about those, do we? Whose selfless efforts saw the 8th Humble Calamity averted, in this timeline at least. Too much has been sacrificed for us to abandon Etheirys now. Yeah. Yes, Biggs the Third, and it was Biggs, or was it Wedge? One of the two. Also, where are Biggs and Wedge? To the rostra. Speak to the rostra steward. Okay then. Is this... Oh, it's not Kites, is it? Kites has got different hair. The Forum is in session, and as such, the rostra is closed to visitors. The Science of the... Speaking. The Sign of the Seventh Dawn. Very well, you may wait in the corridor. Of course, entry will only be permitted on the condition you leave your armaments at the door. Lest you forget, this sacred institution holds rational discourse in the highest. Implements of war are expressly forbidden. I might. I mean, it does look a little bit out of place, if I'm honest. thought it was in session. Doesn't look like it's in session. It looks like there's nobody here. Right, what are we going to find out? Oh, I should have counted the seats. I assume they've made 99 of them. Hi, mate. I've forgotten your name. Barney, eh? Oceano.
There is a matter I wish to raise with you before we enter.
Uh-huh.
We are here to listen and to learn. But if the Forum's plans are more or less what I expect, then I should like to make a proposal that will serve our ends.
Oh?
By your leave, of course.
Thanks for asking permission.
I don't see why not. Your words and wits have gotten us this far.
Oh, don't primp his ego, Ali.
Agreed. I will present our queries so that you may consider the most advantageous way to advance your proposal without distraction.
Thank you, everyone.
What you gonna do?
If I may have your attention, the ad hoc session will now commence. The purpose of today's assembly is to brief the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, at their request, on the Great Exodus. You may enter.
Cheers, yes. I do kind of look like I'm wearing pyjamas, don't I? Monty Shane, that was it.
On behalf of the Forum, I commend your heroic actions on the Magna Glaciers. We shall not soon forget your service to us and the people of Radzat-Han. The Satrap, whom we have informed of the refugees' new arrangements, sings your praises as well.
Weird that. It's almost like helping people and getting involved actually has a reason and purpose.
As an expression of our gratitude, we will endeavor to answer your questions as fully and openly as we are able.
Then let us begin. First, it is the Forum's objective to ferry the life and knowledge of this star to the moon. Am I correct?
You are. It is for this purpose that Sharlayan has labored these many long years. We have collected biological samples and scientific records from across the star. When the time comes, they will be moved from their places in Labyrinthos and Numenon and conveyed to safety. Once that critical task has been accomplished, we will begin transporting the Sharlayan citizenry, which has been categorized into groups. The earliest arrivals are to ensure hospitable environs for those who come after.
Sensible plan.
Following our people, we will send those of other nations in turn, beginning with our allies. Radzat-Han was foremost among these. But since the final days have already come to Thavnair, we saw fit to include the refugees with earlier groupings.
An ambitious plan. You have accounted for the safety of all nations and tribes, then?
As many as we can.
And how, pray tell, do you decide who to leave behind?
To journey beyond the sky is an unprecedented and immeasurably difficult endeavor. Introducing sources of inevitable conflict would condemn all to certain death.
As expected. Well, he's not wrong, but...
Questions as to the validity of that approach aside, are your plans proceeding apace? we're under the impression that your primary means of celestial transportation is incomplete.
If only in that it does not meet our optimal parameters, that is correct.
Uh-huh.
This arc, as some have taken to calling it, is
Hello,
fully
that was me.
and could be launched even today. However, the final days have progressed more quickly than we anticipated. At present, the ship is incapable of attaining speeds sufficient to meet our evacuation targets.
Ah.
Should we put the vessel into service, as it is now, we will be unable to travel to the moon and back quickly enough to complete the necessary number of trips. Precious lives and knowledge will be lost.
Seven hells. Is there anything to be done?
The ether burner, the primary means of propulsion once the craft is in the space between stars, is undergoing testing to determine whether it can be made more efficient.
Ether burner.
Though cargo is being loaded for the initial phase of the Exodus, we are prepared to continue our experimentation up to the day before launch, should it prove necessary.
What if the Scions were to solve your problem?
How?
We shall help devise a means to improve the ether burner's efficiency, on 2 conditions. If we succeed, you must allow us to meet with Hydaelyn.
Twas simple enough to deduce. You have a Concord, and so you would never have abandoned the anti-tower had you no other means of communication. One far more convenient, I suspect.
The second condition, also to be met upon our success, is that we be permitted to propose another use for your Ark.
Oh, that's a gambit.
We would be at liberty to refuse this proposal.
Of course.
Of course. If we cannot prove its merit to the 99 here, who are we to stake on it the lives of all peoples of this star?
Well played.
Delightful as always, Master. Oh, we couldn't have asked for a finer plan. Allow us to solve this complex engineering problem of which we were entirely unaware until moments ago. What could possibly go wrong? The satire writes itself. Yet, what field has not benefited from a change in perspective? When we are at wit's end, what we need is not the same dry theories recited ad nauseam, but fresh inspiration.
Indeed.
I, for one, have faith in my erstwhile students to provide it. And I find their terms to be perfectly acceptable.
And he has a lot of clout.
Order! Order! We have no time to waste on debate. I call a vote. All in favor of agreeing to the Scion's terms?
Ooh, we are getting support. We're getting a reasonable amount of support. Quite a lot of support. Is it enough? Ooh, Barney's gone for it as well.
71 in favor, 28 against. The ayes
Significant. Fortuno did not.
Fortuno, as the architect of this project, you are the best candidate to show them its current state. And bear in mind that regardless of your personal misgivings, this is the will of the Forum.
Keep your emotions in check, lad.
Very well.
You just got played by your son.
Session to a close. Return to your tasks with urgency. The final days wait for none.
They do not indeed. They do not. Right. I'm sure that's going to have gone down well with Dad. My affinity for espionage may have earned me the title of Archon, but I was completely unaware of the Forum's plans. There may have been clues here and there had I been of a mind to look for them, but contemplating that possibility only serves to further wound my pride. Not that anyone could have realistically surmised that their brilliant stratagem was to build a giant ship, fly to the moon, still a larger vessel in truth, and use that to travel to another star. Even now, the whole idea seems positively absurd when spoken aloud. Of late, I have seen no sign of the Loporits. This being their first opportunity to experience the wonders of Charlayan, the potential for misadventure is nigh infinite. Sightseeing log. Perhaps if Midgard's Summer was still alive, in the traditional sense, that is, he could have offered to help the vessel attain the necessary speeds. Then again, there's no guarantee his contribution would make enough of a difference to matter. The further we pursue... Oh, is this where people were saying that we should get the Omega storyline sorted? Because Omega obviously have travel between stars. The further we pursue the mysteries of the universe, the more we struggle to comprehend the fortuitous nature of time itself. We measure and quantify it based on observations of celestial bodies such as the sun and the moon, but from your account it is unclear whether the ancients viewed time in a similar manner. I mention this because while Vanar knew the final days would reoccur at a defined point in the future, she presumably had no way of knowing exactly when. Even so, the completion of the Forum's preparations to escape to the moon aligning so closely with the advent of the final days is surely no coincidence. I'm a little vexed that we have yet to learn of the Forum's replacement for the Anti-Tower, but I expect that in time they'll share that too with us, and with Master Matoya, if they've any sense. Yeah. Well, I very much take issue with the Forum's approach to selecting whom to save and when. They're not wrong for wanting to minimise potential conflicts. I love the fact the comedian just disappears. Unfortunately, if this plan of ours actually works, the Great Exodus itself will become entirely unnecessary. Ew. I'll admit bringing up the issue of the Forum's incomplete arc was more than a little daunting. They were, to their credit, quite open about the current state of affairs. What was even more surprising, though, was when they took Alphino up on his offer. Rest assured, I have every intention of honouring the Forum's decision. Sorry about not letting the rest of you in on my plan. I was admittedly thinking on my feet for the most part. But since we require both a means of communing with Hydaelyn and reaching Meteion, in the spur of the moment I saw involving ourselves with the completion of the arc as a way to work towards both objectives simultaneously. However, we must first keep our end of the bargain by solving the problem with the ether burner. I'd like to think it is not a challenge beyond our combined expertise, or at least the expertise of our extended circle of associates. It might behoove us to learn how an ether burner actually works before we attempt to prove it, though. Yes, Alphino, it might. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, cheerio.